As a fan of conjugate style training with over 15 years of training experience, I use dozens of different exercise variations in my programming. I basically use 3 different main movements per training session: a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary. And in each of those 3 slots, I rotate through different variations of similar but different movements each and every week. And sometimes I will go several months between exposures of the same variation. All that to say, I have a lot of experience with a lot of different exercises. And in this series, I intend to go in depth on many of those exercises and their various associated benefits and each of their unique values. Today, we will discuss 3 reasons why I love the DELOAD push-up. And I think for the next installment in this series, I'll cover the behind the neck press, another fan favorite. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to my channel. And if you enjoy content like this, then please consider supporting my work by picking up a training program from my website, www.enkirielitefitness.com. I have over 60 5-star reviews on Google. You can check them out for yourself. And if you do, your gains will thank you. I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. Reason number 1 why I love the DELOAD push-up is that you will build massive dead stop pressing strength. The DELOAD push-up is essentially the pin bench press of push-up variations. So it's not like a pause bench where you're holding the bottom position while still under load. The DELOAD push-up is like a pin bench press because you are removing yourself from the loading at the bottom of the movement. So you lower yourself down under control to the hardest part of the lift, the very bottom. That is when you fully deload your torso onto the floor, pause down there for a second or 2, and then explode with all of your power and all of your might back to the starting position. I have discussed the myriad benefits of pin lifts many times on this channel. Those are some of my favorite movements. But essentially, what you are doing here is building insane dead stop strength and power out of the most difficult part of the exercise. Again, this deloading component emphasizes dead stop strength. The elastic energy from the stretch shortening cycle dissipates and you are forced to overcome inertia on a completely dead object. In this case, it's your own body, and you are forced to learn how to overcome that resistance now with pure muscular force, as opposed to relying on the rebound from the tendons. Not only that, but since you are deloading the weight at the bottom, you are essentially removing your muscles from the tension at the most difficult portion of the exercise. And with that, you are forced to learn how to turn it on in an instant. You have to learn how to engage quickly, explode rapidly, and turn on all of your muscle fibers, all of your power in the blink of an eye. You have to be able to go from 0 to 100 in the snap of a finger in order to be successful with these movements, because by deloading, you are literally setting yourself back to 0. This aspect is really what makes pin lifts so difficult. It isn't just the act of breaking up the eccentric and concentric phases, which essentially adds a pause at the bottom of the lift, but it is also the complete removal of muscular tension. Muscular tension which acts as a catalyst to the nervous system. In normal lifting, the eccentric phase actually primes the concentric phase. By breaking the lift up onto pins, or in this case, fully deloading your torso onto the floor, we remove that priming effect, and we tell our nervous system that it is going to have to learn how to explode in spite of that. This unique effect is going to turn you into a ferocious freaking beast, an explosive powerhouse of animalistic proportions. Reason number 2 is ultimate consistency from rep to rep. Deloading onto the floor creates an ultra consistent range of motion. You cannot possibly deviate from it, and with that, a more highly repeatable movement pattern. The biggest issue that you see with push-ups, especially from normies, no offense, is half reps, and for obvious reason. The deeper that you go, the harder it gets. That's what she said. But when you're deloading your torso onto the floor, there is absolutely no question about whether you achieved the goal range of motion or not. You either deloaded your torso fully onto the floor or you didn't. And as such, you are guaranteed to never shortchange your progress by doing half reps. But this deloading aspect does not mean that we are stuck with one single possible setup here in terms of the range of motion of the exercise. Yes, you can set it up from the floor like I'm doing here, lower down under control, deload, and explode. And you will be able to move some big weights this way and get in some really high quality work anywhere that you go, really, with no equipment needed. If you have a weight vest that you can load up, then you can use this variation to build crazy strength in the pressing muscles, along with adding slabs of muscle onto the chest, shoulders, and triceps. But another option is to set this movement up from a deficit to increase the range of motion, just like you would do on a standard deficit push-up. And again, the cool part about this is that since you are deloading onto the floor, you know exactly how much distance that you have added onto the total range of motion of the movement. So this is a good way to test the max range of motion that you are able to move through on the push-up pattern, because you can find the exact point where you're no longer able to actually deload your torso onto the floor, and then you can cut it down from there by half an inch or so, and now you have a sweet spot for a max range of motion push-up. But be warned, these are absolutely fucking brutal. Going into a full deload at max ROM is not for the faint of heart, but the end range strength and size reward here is more than worth the temporary pain. Reason number 3 is that the act of deloading actually allows you to do more work at equivalent intensity levels as compared to non-deloaded variations, and more work at a given intensity equals more gains. There is an aspect with these type of deload movements and pin lifts where you're able to actually conserve some energy and regroup a little bit by briefly deloading yourself from the weight at the most difficult portion of the movement. So the interesting part here is that my 1 rep max tends to be basically the same on a pin lift versus on the same movement but as a pause variation of it. So for example, my best ever pause front squat for a single is 365 pounds, and my best ever front squat to pins is also 365 pounds at roughly the same depths. But then I have tripled 330 pounds on the front squat to pins, whereas I would get absolutely stapled if I ever tried to do a second rep with 330 pounds on the pause front squat. So the max outputs here are similar, but there is an aspect of energy conservation in the act of deloading that actually allows you to do more work at equivalent intensity levels. That higher volume of hard work creates the potential for greater strength and size gains in the long run. Couple that with the primary benefit of these movements, which is building absolutely massive explosive power out of the hole that turns you into a fast twitch, ferocious animal, and you have a recipe for becoming an absolute monster that is simply not to be fucked with. So there you go, guys. 3 reasons why I love deload push-ups, and I think this topic really speaks to the value of experimenting with new things, especially as your training age increases. I never would have thought that I would grow to love deload lifts and pin lifts so much as I have these days. They're just so hard and so uncomfortable when you're actually doing them, but after giving them a fair shake, I have grown to appreciate them so much in spite of that, because I've been able to find such great value here that I hadn't yet found with other movements, even with all my time spent under the bar. In fact, I would wager that I'm the only strength coach in history that has discussed the potential benefit of these movements that I laid out in point number 3. So don't be afraid to experiment, guys. You just might learn something valuable along the way. And if you aren't doing so already, make sure you start doing your deload push-ups as well. That's all I got for today, guys. Please be sure to smash the like button before you go. Leave me some love in the comments down below. Check out EnkiriEliteFitness.com for online coaching and training programs. And as always, keep training hard. I will catch you guys next time.